Okay, 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Thank everybody for coming. I'll just remind you right now that we have to keep the talking to a minimum so that the people not here can hear everything. So thank you. All right. Review and approve the minutes of January 5th.
So moved.
In a second, any further discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is everybody? Right, members report. We'll start with Sean. Yeah. And anything I have I forget before I get here? We'll go right into the town manager's report.
Just one administrative note tonight, we had at the last meeting scheduled a public hearing on referendum questions. That is not on your agenda for tonight. That's going to be booked in mass at the next meeting for all of your referendum questions. We'll get to that later in the meeting tonight. Your meet the candidate profiles. That's not just the select board. That is for anybody that's going to be on the ballot. Get to know folks and whatnot. January 27th, please. I've got 2 already. I need more. If you want, it's your pleasure. We're also probably going to try to schedule something as a get together for a coffee or whatever. Sometime. It was a comment that came in last year's election, so just give the opportunity, probably at Firehouse or something. We'll keep you posted on that. Oh, maybe restaurant. Maybe the restaurant. We'll see how that works. You are scheduled to sign the warrant on February 1st, which then ideally will make absentee ballots available on the 2nd. Voters can request them at any time, but we're not going to be able to fill those until we get signatures on that final warrant. Also, town report submission to departments, organizations, please, before the end of this week, so we can edit and format it. Scoping meeting last week at the airport to discuss future acquisition of snow removal equipment. That is almost 30-year-old piece of equipment. The large John Deere tractor with a rotary snowblower on the front. Initially, when we looked at it, even last year with the consultant, it was ballpark 300,000. The agencies reported us a cost of closer to 700,000 for what they've seen. 90% of that would be covered by FAA, 5% state, 5% local. We had to adjust our CIP to have all of this built in. I got word back from the consultant this afternoon, probably close to 500,000 for that equipment. Still the grant structure in terms of funding. So that's going to continue to move forward as a need for the airport, subject to review by the airport advisory. But the idea would be we would be allocating our bipartisan infrastructure law bill, is what they call it, money, which is $159,000 a year extra to offset that. We would still have the local share of 5%. More to come. Last week's planning board meeting, Ryan and Katrina Nickerson, they're owners of Nickerson Yard Maintenance, were approved for construction of a 40 by 100 commercial building at the corner of Waterville and Bigelow Hill Roads. That's going to house a repair shop in about 2/3 of it, and then retail space with office space above it there. So what they use in their business, hand tools and things like that, are the things that they're going to intend to sell there. So ideally not going to be cutting in to the motor business that we have around town. Planning board is going to hold a special meeting on January 26th to review a subdivision application for the Red Barn Road subdivision. That is a subdivision that was approved back a year and a half ago. And there's a request by the applicant, being Jeremy and Bridget Turner, to modify one of the conditions, which was a setback off the road. It started as it was a voluntary restriction that the applicant put on at the time, and the planning board modified it slightly but accepted it. They're seeking one lot be excluded from a 75-foot development setback, and I think they're asking for it to be reduced to 15 feet outside of the public right of way for start of construction. In order for them to process that, because it's a condition, they have to file a whole new application. So it will be heard just like a subdivision application with public hearing on the 26th at 6 o'clock here. Abutters notices have already gone out. TIF committee will be meeting next Tuesday to review facade improvement program from 3D equipment. That is also on the Waterville Road and Bigelow Hill Road, so we've got good business development up there, locally owned, everybody lives here, we love that. And the state has issued a request for proposal this week for the trestle project. Target completion date on that is June 30th, 2023. They've solicited proposals from 17 or 18 contractors. If there's anyone that hasn't received that packet, please feel free to reach out to the ATV division at the state of Maine, but we have that available here at the office. The public works generator, that was one that we got shared through FEMA, that 14,420 state share has come in. Your automatic foreclosure on unpaid 2021 liens, meaning 2020 taxes, is February 5th. Still, as of this morning, there are 10 properties remaining in that foreclosure status. So all of those properties are at least land or land and buildings. We have no standalone mobile homes. Those two we had already settled up. So that was good there. The library had a good weekend this last weekend with Carmen Dickinson. She's a local quilter who showcased a lot of her handwork there at the library, very well attended. And this Saturday, local author Carla Jordan, who did Cartwheels in the Dark, and then has another new book out. She's gonna be doing a meet and greet and book signing. So we're expecting, if the weather's good attendance there as well. May have already seen it, but the fire department has onboarded Kyle Mullen, who has been with the department since 2014. He is the new full-time firefighter, replacing Lieutenant Corson, who stepped back from the full-time and now is in a call status firefighter there. So great to have him here. He lives 2 doors down from the town office. He's in town, he's got a young family. Very, very pleased with the selection there. Thank you to Poland Spring. They donated approximately $1,700 bottles of water to the fire department, and also the forestry grant was successfully awarded. The local share, I think it's a 50-50, 1745. That's hand tools, a floating pump, and hose for forestry. Last weekend, storm was costly at Public Works. There's no good way about it. We threw a lot of material at the roads, and so we are ordering additional salt and planning to bring in stockpiled sand. There is a pit in Smithfield that we may be able to gain access to unexpectedly because of a project going on with a local business here. And so we're going to look into that tomorrow to see what the cost of that is and the possibility of bringing in some sand from outside. If the winters continue to trend the way that they are, we would benefit from having access to that in the off season. So we're going to try to work that tomorrow if it's something in an affordable budget range. And then the last thing was sewer, where we've been trying to get shelters built above the pump station control panels. The only responsive bidder came in at $29,462, so it was higher than what we wanted, but it was the only responsive bidder. So when you're dealing with these federal funds, that's what tends to be. There is still $156,000 remaining in grant funds for the plant upgrade. So the goal would be to accept that responsive bid, draw it off in that $156,000, and then there would be residual to support a storage structure of some sort over there, and not the $500,000 garage that we quoted last. So they're still working on that. All of our associates, we haven't heard their name at one time. They're still here on a regular basis, and they're still working this project for us. So,
Okay, so thank you. Moving forward, discussion action on January 18th, general warrant.
I move that we approve general warrant number 26 in the amount of $1,863.14.
Second.
Vote in the second. Any further discussion?
That's a nice number.
Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody. Discussion action on January 18th, general warrant. What's that? It was.
we have
General
a
warrant number 2.
general warrant from last year and one from this year.
Okay, yep, there we go. So general warrant number 2 there.
All right, I move that we approve general warrant number 2 in the total amount of $220,833.22. There it is.
Second, any further discussion?
Why is Maine Municipal on here 3 different times? Like, why is it?
We have health insurance, we have workers' comp, and we have
Okay,
property casualty insurance.
all right.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? That's everything. No. Oh, shit, everybody is sneaky there. Sorry. Opposed? All right, discussion action on January 18th, airport warrant.
I move we approve warrant number 8 in the amount of, $127,898.22. What?
A little bit there, a little bit. The motion and second, any further discussion, Lindsay?
Yeah, like what's Seems like an awful big number. I mean,
It's that crack ceiling.
but like, are we not getting reimbursed or anything? for that?
Yes, so there's 90% from FAA that we've already received, and when we get that reimbursement, that's when we pay out. So these are, you can see the 11/18 was the actual invoice date, and we just hold the money until we get that reimbursement.
So what's the dollar amount that we're responsible for?
We're responsible for 5% of the total. This is 90% of that. So, no.
Just
So,
keep dumping money in the airport.
That's a fair amount there. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I feel like I can't, yeah, I can't.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, discussion action on January 18th sewer commitment.
I move that we approve the sewer commitment in the amount of $19,401 even. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is everybody? Public comment? Anything out there from the public?
You said you couldn't
Chucky's
take
giggling.
it today. You laid down the rules. My question is on the, I know it's not, it's federal money against the tractor out there, the airport. How many hours were on that tractor in 30 years? Well, I guess, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't get worn out just because it's 30 years old. Well, I know that it's not, I know it's federal money into it. Geez. Just seems to me
Still taxpayer money.
it's a lot of money for a tractor that probably doesn't have that much weight.
I got the note, I'll get the answer for the next meeting, but the tractor is purchased as a piece of snow removal equipment.
Yes. And we're getting.
However, we should do it for bush hogging and things like that. And prior to the obstruction clearing, when we did mulching at the same time, that machine was abused because of
Okay.
the ground was clear.
Okay.
But would it make more sense to maybe just like pay
No,
tax
no,
to
I'm
do
not
that
saying
instead of
that.
buying the equipment? I mean, if it just needs to be bush hog, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of local people here that would do that. I mean,
So you've got that, but then you've got in the snow removal aspect of it.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just asking a question of, even though it's 30 years old. That's a lot, hour wise, and if it did get stove up, well, I understand. I'm just raising the question that 30 years. If
If
you
it
had to
starts
use
and
it every
goes.
day, opposed to,
Valid. So we'll touch on that for next time. You'll.
Quick question. So what was the last piece of equipment we bought out there? I thought about 5 years ago, we bought a brand new something out there.
Yeah, there was a dump truck with a sweeper, a V plow, a high speed plow. When in fact they were looking for a loader. And
I
that,
remember that. Yeah, right.
that purchase was completed just as I came. And I think he spent 6 years previous to that trying to get it.
Right. I know the price of the tractor was too much, so we bought the truck. So the truck is snow removal.
We couldn't get it made in America.
American made.
80%. Yes, I remember that. So we do have a new fairly decent truck out there with a snow plow on it.
Yes,
Okay.
which works,
Yeah.
but there's 3 attachments that we don't need or use. We use the sweeper when we're doing construction around the airport. We need to sweep up, but we don't use it for what they thought that it needed. We never used the high speed plow, but they forced us to take that. So,
and the snow blower does serve a purpose when we have any great amount of storm. I understand that, so.
in the original emergency management perspective, they have that piece of equipment up to the airport as a high value. Turn that, if we ever had something awful. It's not.
Okay.
But it's still a big ticket.
We'll check it out and update on the next meeting.
Well, I was just,
I'd like to know myself after.
I was just, it was just
They're valid.
very big, I know it's 30 years, but
That's nothing.
No, well,
how many hours?
okay, right on. Anything else on the public? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Discussion action on confirmation of deputy fire wardens.
With a new fire chief becoming the fire warden, it then requires him to reappoint deputy fire wardens. The process is that it comes to you to actually authorize them. So he's giving you the suggestions of Todd Pineo, Stephen Ireland, and Andrew Dexter to serve as fire wardens to the town of Norridgewock. If that's amicable, it would be a motion to authorize me to sign on your behalf to appoint those.
so moved.
Okay.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's everybody. Okay, discussion action, all resignations.
We'll have the resignation of Michael Shute from the planning board.
Is he the newest one that we had just had come on?
No.
No, okay.
Second is.
Is there any, I mean, very short to the, who's no,
Very direct, very direct there.
were there any
With
issues?
him not being here, I don't want to venture too far into it. I can tell you he was frustrated with the meeting demands.
So I reached out and we want more information. He'd be more than happy to come in an executive session and discuss what his dissatisfactions are.
I think I would like to hear that. I mean, we have such a hard time filling a planning board. If this was someone who was doing a good job, like I feel like it'd be irresponsible for us not to fully understand what's going on.
Either an in-person or he'd submit a letter detailing the issues that he
Yeah.
has.
I know I'd like to know what's going on.
So a letter,
It's gonna all be public record.
I think an executive session might be better. 'Cause no, can't do it.
You're all elected officials.
Oh. Does Charlotte have any idea what's going on?
I hate to see him go. I really do. I had no idea he was this upset.
You could individually reach out to him and
Yeah.
have a discussion like it sounds like Peter did. If you really want to know.
see, the other brother, it's the good brother.
Okay.
There was, I'll glaze you over. There was difficulty with process, there was difficulty with the role of the planning board relative to staff. And what staff should be doing or shouldn't be doing. This is all in the meeting. You might want to watch the meeting from last Thursday. The role of the planning board when they're permitting and then the authority that the planning board could consider asserting as the review authority. And for instance, it was an application for a 40 by 100 structure. Should the planning board be responsible for setting the and or reviewing the definition of substantive start to construction?
Yeah.
And for me, the ordinance says that's the duty of the code enforcement officer. We hire the code enforcement officer, that's their role. He wanted it to be come back forward to the board. And so if in my mind, as administrator and person responsible for the employees, if you would like that, then maybe we should go back and you can go to review the road opening permit that staff issues and where does that really start and stop?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I would say that we accept the resignation and invite him to write a letter or to come in and see us, whatever he would like to do.
But he really is under no obligation.
Right.
Gosh, no.
And I don't think this captures the frustration that's there. This is
Yeah.
scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to, if we're losing people that are a value add to that board because of things that are happening within that board, we need to address that. You know, we can't,
Well, the thing is that when we redid the site plan review ordinance, Scott Campbell was the chairman, and he wanted to give the CEO more responsibility so that it would be less on us.
CEO of what?
Code enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
Not chief
Yeah,
executive.
well, I mean, that makes sense because he's one who actually has training and like the legal, like, you know, understanding of that versus, I mean, they're all elected officials, not that, you know, most of them aren't more than capable, but, you know, I feel like we should trust the rules more than that. I mean, that would make sense to me, wouldn't it? That's how we've always done it too. Why are we
On the-
deviating?
On the executive session, what legally would be the issue with that? Submitting a letter to be read in executive session or coming in and addressing the board in executive session? Legally. What's the roadblock?
Everybody's elected and that's all public. If you have an issue with a member of the board, that interaction has to take place in public.
So we have
If
executive.
you lie to complain against me, you can bring it into executive session.
We have executive sessions here as an elected group of people on a regular basis. I don't see the difference.
But it's the relevant section of statute that allows us to do that. So in the back of my folder, I've got discussion of confidential records, legal consultation, labor negotiations, acquisition of real estate or economic development. The personnel matters is me. You've got the school category, or you've got exam results. Consultation with code enforcement officer on pending enforcement in district court.
Well, then maybe that's what we're doing in Underwork, consulting with him to see if how we want to proceed with the planning board and whose responsibility is what.
That public record. That's not.
You just said that was executive session stuff.
Consultation with the code enforcement officer on pending enforcement matter in district court.
Oh. Except for the court part, that's.
That's what gets you into that, because the code enforcement officer, a lot of them have the ability to go to court on your behalf.
I mean, why does it need to be executive session? If I have an issue with you, I'm gonna tell you whether it's private or
Yeah.
public. I mean, I don't.
You just don't know what someone's comfort level is. Like, I feel like we really want to understand what's going on. And if they don't feel comfortable because it's being broadcast, like you don't want to put someone, you know,
Right.
on the spot to like, you know, they might like someone, but if it's a member.
Dirty laundry.
Yeah, yep.
Basically.
So maybe we do just on an individual basis, like reach out to them kind of so we can get our own and then take the steps from that because.
Okay, but as a board, do we want to accept it and then extend an invitation to him to write a letter or come see us as a board?
I think so.
Right, as a board, if you guys want to reach out.
Yeah.
There's something that's great too. I would take a motion.
So moved, what you said.
Second. Motion a second, any further discussion? We'll have Richard grab something, send something over, inviting the letter or him to come into our next meeting. That's it for discussion, so all those in favor? Excellent, thank you. Right, okay, discussion action on expense transfer to contingency.
I'll move that we approve the expense of $1,006.27 to be transferred from contingency to the tax assessing to cover the overdraft.
Second,
Motion is second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody.
Move that we approve the expense of $1,709.07 to be transferred from contingency to fire to cover the overdraft.
second,
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody. Okay, discussion action on 2023 annual housing contract.
So this is actually going to be something we're going to talk about a little bit later in the budget, but the animal housing contract has gone up per capita to $1.70 per capita. Our population went down slightly, so it's about a $300 difference in what we were paid last year. We're legally obligated to have the contract. My recommendation would be to authorize me to sign the contract with Somerset Humane Society at the per capita rate of $1.70. And then we'll put the plan in the budget.
Yeah, and with the increase of everything else, it's not surprising. So I move that we allow Richard to sign the contract with the Somerset Humane Society on the town's behalf.
Most second and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Review of results from property maintenance ordinance survey.
Right. The board has a deck, and on that deck, we've had it since last week. You can see that we had just shot, we had 64 respondents to the survey. There are 64 individual responses. 95% of those respondents were taxpayers and or property owners, so that's a pretty good idea to who's responding. And sorry, I can preface by saying the board asked a month, 6 weeks ago about revisiting this, and there was interest in revisiting and figuring out what was wrong with the previous proposal. So this goal was to set forward a set of questions that people could answer to help guide that. So of the 64 respondents, 78% favor of ordinances that set property maintenance standards. I was surprised by that number. Do you favor an ordinance that covers the downtown, the entire town, or none? This was a select everything, and so the numbers we'll look at the comments, but pretty much the entire town was what people wanted. Everybody clicked the entire town, and that after that, we do that. I got the numbers in my file, but Pretty sure that's not right. People were passionate that it covered the entire town. The feedback that we got, if you voted against it, why did you vote against it? 13 people in one way or another said that regulations were too vague. 9 said that they should cover the entire town. These were not required comments. Property owner rights, pretty much it's my property. I pay taxes on it. You can't tell me what to do with it. The inability to afford maintenance, that was something that we heard here with the board and in the public at the time, was if folks can't do it, how do we help them do it? And then one person said that the regulations were in fact too specific. The any other feedback, that's the catch-all, and you can see what folks there said, or people about personal property rights. 3 people are passionate that you be reasonable with the regulations. Clean town benefits and draws new business. The ordinance would drive up taxes. I was kind of surprised to see that. But 2 individuals separately said that. 2 people asked that you offer resources. A variety of different things there, but I think from this anyway, it indicates that there's a palette for revisiting, and I think one of those things would be to lift the geographic constraint that you placed in the previous plan of just the downtown, it would be applied to the entire town. So there's no discussion action on this tonight. This is just simply a review of it. To initiate the discussion, it's too late to get it queued up for March. So the earliest to be able to deal with that would be June or November or next March. But it's something that we need to get talking about. And that slide, which is what I thought, page 2, that's bottom slide where 65.63 actually shows the downtown. Do you favor property maintenance ordinance that covers the downtown? Those numbers are reversed. 65% favor covering the whole town, while 31% cover the downtown. 3% of respondents said none of the downtown. So, questions, comments, anything you want me to get down in the record for future
So
consideration?
we want to schedule something now to go over this ordinance again ourselves. And see how it sets. Well, I mean, it's been a while since I've read it. Just to go through it and then to see if we have any changes we want to make to it. And then see if it's what we want to put forward and if we want to put it forward again at some point in time this year. We have something a little less, I don't know if it's our next meeting or whenever you can fit it in.
Honestly, your first meeting in April.
I'm
Because we've got to get to the town meeting, it's gonna be a meeting before town meeting, then you're gonna have a new board, March 15th.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So is this just 4 pages? I thought it was like 20.
Really?
I was thinking the exact same thing,
Yeah.
not longer, like and more specific, like if we had something about the grass height,
The
everything.
back that we're looking at, maybe, but yeah.
Like that, we'll schedule it for.
Well, I'm not worried about
Right now.
You can come back.
I can spend with you and you prove it for us. And I was getting right.
Listen, you ever give us that page?
You could. So don't get confused. You don't need anything official on that at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
again, when this was first written and discussed and projected, yes. We had a lot less code enforcement officer.
Yes, we did.
So that's a twist that's worth considering.
Yep.
As you look at that.
And it lost by 2 votes. So this was a 2 vote
Yeah.
thing. So
Oh,
maybe 4, maybe
you
4.
vote twice?
Could be.
4 against.
Yeah, right. Okay, right. Got number 16, discussion action on moratorium ordinance on medical marijuana, registered retail stores.
That's a mouthful.
That's a lot.
This was done at the board's request when we considered the opt-in question. It's going to go by referendum for the opt-in of medical marijuana retail establishments. This was what you asked. We'd like to be able to consider a moratorium as a board, and then to consider as to whether or not it's going to go to voters paired with the opt-in question. So theoretically, if you appreciate the language that this offers as a proposed ordinance, we would certify the language in the ordinance and then warrant it for town meeting. And whether or not it be secret ballot referendum with the opt-in question, or it would be by open town meeting. The ordinance is a cookie cutter that our law firm was able to provide us. And it just pretty much allows the same break, if you will, that we had for solar, pause on solar. To allow the planning board time to consider whether or not regulations are needed for it. So we would theoretically have the opportunity for the voters to opt in to medical marijuana retail. And then up to a year for the planning board to consider developing regulations on medical marijuana retail. And to be voted on by voters. Or if the opt-in is voted down, it's pretty much moot. And we shouldn't use the I would argue you shouldn't use the resources of the planning board to develop regulations on it. Yep.
Yeah, we'll take a motion on it, yeah, for myself, the more to it.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a citizens petition initiative at our town meeting in March.
That's the opt-in question.
Yeah.
Whether or not we allow it. And if that passes. This is a moratorium for us to give us time to look at what we want to regulate.
That specific to medical marijuana retail.
So if it doesn't pass at town election, this is a moot point.
Yes.
That makes sense, to me, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So your motion to
Certify the official text of the proposed town moratorium ordinance on medical marijuana registered caregiver retail stores.
So moved.
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's it.
And then the next question would be a motion to warrant the article and whether or not you want it by open town meeting or by secret ballot.
I moved that we have it by the secret ballot, right? Was that what we decided on last time?
The second, yeah. Yeah. Motion the second. For it to be in the secret ballot there, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, that's it. Yeah. Judy's none. Okay, discussion action on 2023 budget town meeting.
So I just listed in those 4 items there, of things that we needed to touch on tonight. In no real particular order, just so that we knew that they need to be considered. In your packet, you have the draft warrant. It's working document, and it's in yellow, either needs to be reviewed by myself or by you today. So if we could just we'll go through the highlights and make adjustments if you'd like to make adjustments. And then we'll consider things like firefighter purchase and unassigned fund balance as we come to those. The first is going to be Article 11, and that is the Public Safety Department. Your initial warrant of that article was 119,562. That's been overdraft with our animal shelter contract. So my recommendation to you would be to warrant the article and recommend 119,848.
So moved.
Second.
Second, further discussion.
So will the budget committee have an opportunity to have this discussion as well, so there's not a conflict here?
I mean, I can.
That's gonna.
Mess with.
It'll start.
Right, it'll start. Exactly, yeah, so, I don't. I think that would be a prudent thing to do.
I do too. Just to, I would.
Reconvene the board of 7 in person to vote on the one question that's off by $200. Or we just leave it as it is.
And just explain it at the town meeting. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, but it won't stop at a time.
So were we the same at 119,562?
Yes,
So why don't we leave it at 119,562? It's a $200 overdraft.
that's the plan, right?
I think I say just leave it the way it was, and then you don't have that inconsistency. I mean, chances of us spending that entire amount are probably zero.
The animal welfare piece will probably spend all of it and then more, they get them shots and all that to boot. But nonetheless,
Just leave it as,
I think I like that.
You know, we spent it all this year.
always a close one because that includes our, it's a small portion of the budget, but we eat it up with hydrant fees and whatever term we use it for that. Hydrant fees, that's a pretty fair term. Right, yeah, I know we don't use that.
I do not.
Water access.
Fire protection. Yeah.
Instead of changing it, so.
So you have a motion and a second to adjust.
Put this one.
Yeah.
Right, we'll just let it die, I mean, right, or we don't need to vote it down, oh, I need to vote it Okay, all right, so all those in favor, just no one. Opposed? That's everybody.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna take a motion.
Nope, that's good.
Consent, or just one?
Okay. Temporary article 17 is the library budget. The budget committee they liked all of your numbers, but they ended up going with the total of the trustee request. So the line items as to where they wanted it don't align, but that really doesn't matter because we don't look at that. That's just a budgeting tool. They are recommending a number more than what you had recommended.
Thought that the number that
So
we
it's
did was
1,000.
even less than what they asked for.
1,000 more.
Yeah,
Hey, do we have an item or why or
What did we miss?
what did we miss?
What did they want?
So I had pulled back things that didn't align with this year's spending. It was unemployment insurance. There were a few other miscellaneous insurances and things like that that I had pulled back because we were siloed in developing budget because it had come in late. So I had developed it and sent it to you first.
And did we even have a full-time employee in place? We had a transition, we had a. Other ones, I guess.
The library budget is developed by the trustees, not by the department. Yeah. So it was off by just a little bit, and the budget committee is recommending more, so it's not that you have to recommend more, it's that we really give your vote to increase the warrant article, if that's what you wish.
I think 45 is already more than enough for the library. But that's where I'm at.
But I would want to know the exact estimate.
Yeah.
From like 1,000. I hate to do that to you, but I don't mean what's the specific thousands or something that we missed. I don't want to short them, but at the same time, we're not just endless.
I thought that we allowed more than what they had asked for, though.
You allowed more than what I had asked for. I had
Okay.
made budgetary adjustments and you had added to programming. My programming was at $700. They programmed for 2,000. And so you had carried that over. And we won't get there in time. You had carried that amount over. And then they did not. So
Library doesn't do any fundraising stuff, do they?
they do,
Do they?
they get grants, and it's not like you have to actively apply for grants. They do actively apply for grants. We got the ALA grant this last year.
I know that like the Scout Keegan, they do like that lunch thing where they deliver and things, and I know that that's where they fund a lot of like their program and different things through. I feel like maybe we should be looking for that kind of stuff and not just taxpayer burden for some of the stuff with the library.
In defense of that department, which does have my staff in it, our rec doesn't really fundraise. All the departments really fundraise. To drive for grants is really what they go for. And they do get, $3,000-4,000 a year. They get donations. Public might be relevant.
Oh, sorry, I'm listening.
One thing related to the Skowhegan Library is that's not a town library.
That is true.
Oh,
They do get a little funding from the town of Skowhegan, but it's not a town library.
oh. What is it, the county one or something like that?
No, it's a nonprofit, but they get funding from other places. That's why they do fundraising.
The little store on Main Street.
This budget has gone up
A lot.
a ton, but I mean, like, it was in the low 30s when I was on the budget committee like 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's, we're 10 grand more. I don't think we're servicing more people or anything like that. I mean, we already increased the projects and things like that, to go up even more. I mean,
In the greater perspective, we spent $1.7 million last year. Our budget is $2.7 million this year. This is
Yeah.
$1,000
yeah,
in the big picture.
So they had put in $300 for advertising. I had pulled out because we hadn't spent any before.
where do they plan on advertising for $300? That's not gonna get you in.
Not to be insensitive to it, but what Jim just said, $325. If they ask for $325, I probably wouldn't pull that out if I had seen their budget before I developed it. Right? We talked about driving papers to the library, well, how are you gonna do that? And maybe Facebook ads. Simply pushing a meet and greet event or something like that.
So do we have a motion?
No,
So can I make a motion that we approve $46,030.00 for the library budget?
second.
Motion a second, any further discussion?
Yeah, I still don't see where.
Does that change the board?
You're seeing small recommendations, you see that 300 right there on advertising, then there's subscriptions up to 175. Right, there's
Unemployment was 325 to 150.
a combination of small things, it's not like it's $1,000 item, you're like, I'm not paying for that.
And then there's the programming line here with a difference with mine, which you moved over.
Building repairs on 300,
Right.
so just a little. Yeah, by 1,000 paper cuts.
Right, yes. The model, the budget.
Big paper cuts.
Okay, I hope that clears that up for you. Any further discussion on that?
The motion, does that change the select board recommendation? Or does that just warrant increase the warrant?
What you needed to do,
I would like it to at least raise the warrant article.
so moved.
Yeah. Fine. And then our stays the same, so it could still go with the lower, so I mean, there's some plausibility there. Motion a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody.
So the select board recommend is gonna be 46,030.
No,
No.
It's gonna stay the same, but it'll be warranted at the 46, so the higher amount is there.
So it is possible to get that higher.
if we make an in-mass motion, you want extra bit and get the select board recommendation. Okay, over to Article 23. This is similar, we can just pass over. It sounds like that's gonna be the pleasure. We're gonna let that one go to contingency. Article 25, not quite a pass over. At the last meeting, we said we we're gonna integrate the road budget into our reserve account budget. The budget committee is asked to appropriate the $750,000 to the road budget. Where you had only asked for the 650. That was the whole request of the road. So they have suggested this, and then in the next article, they have offered up utilizing more waste management host fees to absorb it.
That doesn't seem like a very good idea.
The thought of the budget committee, all members of the budget committee on that, was that there's a balancing act between saving your host fee money and investing your host fee money. And investing in infrastructure today, especially in the current climate of inflation, you're wiser to spend that and put that into your infrastructure now as opposed to putting it in the bank and watching prices rise. They thought there was more bang for their buck in spending that, or at least allocating that 100,000 this year than.
Okay, but still two very different things. So I mean, on the 100,000, as itself, I mean. I have no issue with the higher amount being warranted, on there on the article, but, I don't think, the board wants to raise their, no, I don't.
No.
I can't speak.
I think
for the
we
board, but
raised it significantly already.
I think we did
That's-
too, and I'm fine with them having the higher amount there, but I would. Do you need a motion?
I need a motion to change the warrant, to increase the warrant to 960 if that's what you'd like.
Myself,
I
yes,
need to.
I'm fine with that. Is everybody?
That'll
Why do we
allow
have
us
to-
to get to 960, it may be the lower amount, you can't exceed the 860 unless you warrant
But
that.
we can say, no, we don't want to do that though, too.
You have that ability, you would be working with decades of.
Right, we can say, no, we're not going to put that on the board, but that's not something we would
That's
typically.
why we employ the budget committee,
Right.
those
They
recommendations.
feel the need that there's enough demand for that extra 100,000, which there certainly is. I mean, who is it of us to be like, no, we're just,
And you said there might be another article here that,
The next article, they're asking to increase revenues by an additional.
The budget committee likes spending money.
well, they're playing a numbers game of just moving stuff. So, I mean, do you want to tell me? So, I mean, for 25, are we
25, we would need a motion to warrant the article at X number of dollars.
at the 960, which is the higher amount,
Correct.
which is myself, what I would like to see, I can't speak for all of you, would take a motion of anything. But I do certainly want that.
so I'll make that motion
I'll second.
to warrant 960.
Okay, move on, motion to a second. Any further discussion? You get it all right? I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, with no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay,
Temporary Article 26, there's an increase in the Budget Committee recommending revenues of $100,000.
how do you feel about that? That seems like it's really,
There were passionate arguments on both sides. There was a discussion, arguably lengthy for the time of night that it was, about allowing taxes to rise slowly and absorb the costs that we are just putting off by offsetting with surplus, offsetting with revenues and things like that. But then there was also discussion about, well, how much is there actually in host fees? How much comes in, how much goes out? After your warrant packet tonight, the next page should be a paper that shows you your host fees, which they didn't have that whole picture. As to what we receive, it could be immediately after. It's not immediately after, and I am sorry. Should have been, yeah, that's it. And so this year to date, well, in 2022, we received 900,000. And it was.
I think it's naive to just completely rely on post fees of making so taxes never go up. Like, we're looking at every single thing that we've got in our budget going up because of the rate of inflation, like, it needs to, not all at once, but like, cost of everything goes up. We can't just do that because then that makes it so that we can't do some other things. Like, it should be an expectation that your taxes don't stay the exact same in perpetuity, like regardless of what other things are happening. Like, it just seems like a not need to do, to be honest.
what did we have slated to come in and host fees this year?
We had budgeted 650,000, but that's the way we budget. You don't want to eat up all those revenues.
Mhm.
But we budgeted 650, so 250 went into the host account. So it's gonna sit there. That doesn't go to surplus because it's host fees. That goes into a standalone separate account.
And are we on our new rate with host fees right now?
We're on in between. We're expected in September or October to be in that top rate. And then we're gonna ride CPI after that.
But did we just go up? We
We did not get an increase this last year.
Okay, so this year
You're seeing an increase in waste.
okay,
That 8% at the bottom is the increase in waste.
I just don't think we should be using that as a way to offset. Like,
what was the 100,000 for?
So the 100,000 in your reserve account was to additionally fund road reserve. And then in the revenue section, theoretically to offset the road increase was an use of an additional $100,000 in host fees to offset taxation.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I'm just a fine line, but at what point are you negligent? And this town is like negligent for saving money and getting more than we need. Or at least it has been for a long time. I mean,
but what's gonna happen when that money runs out and we haven't increased taxes, done anything on like a slow and steady sort of rate? It's not like people's taxes are gonna go up, $100 each person. Like, when Waste Management pulls out of here at some point someday, what are we gonna do then if we've not put in the structure that we need now? Like, it's just, it's,
what do you get into tax and do like by a percentage? 1%. I mean, how many properties is it? Property tax that you're talking about? Yeah, in the end, right, that's what makes it all up. I mean, myself personally, I've been trying to keep taxes flat. I didn't want to see taxes change this year. I know the county tax and all that will go up.
yeah,
But I feel that with the influx, or the increase of money that we're seeing, the least we can do, you know what I mean, is keep taxes flat. I think this is our second or third year of flat taxes. With the whole
Taxes have not gone up.
right.
that just doesn't seem, I mean,
So
it seems.
it's a valid point. I mean, it
Yeah,
really is.
like-
It's just tough, right? I
The
mean,
host fee isn't indefinite. That's what, like, I mean, offsetting it like now, then people are, my taxes have been this for 15 years. Well, guess what? In like 10, it's gonna skyrocket because we've been offsetting it. There should be a gradual increase in just the expectation because the cost of everything is going up. So what else can that money be used for that can benefit the town? That's not just saving people $14, can that as a lump sum be used for something to better the town versus not have your bill go up by $10.
It's tough, right? You can make an
I
argument.
don't feel like it is tough, like saving $10 or putting that couple hundred grand into something else is.
That's tough when you value that $10.
The other theory is that, you know, with all this income coming in, if we're building our infrastructure, if we're buying our new fire truck, if we're fixing our roads, if we're paying for our sewer treatment plant. These are capital expenses that we're not going to have to tax at some point. We've always had that stuff, but hopefully there's a jump. I'd like to see taxes get out a little bit, give some money back to people while they're struggling to.
Really,
Gas and
that is
egg.
how I feel,
I
yeah.
mean, think about it, we're pulling in $1 million this year, plus all the other revenue that we're pulling in. We're trying to figure out how we're gonna spend it. Well, give some back.
I just worry about like what happens if that goes away, because we cannot sustain this budget without that.
It will go.
We
away.
can't, it's like, you know, that's why you have like rainy, that's why you have these things, because you don't know, something could go massively wrong at Waste Management, then what, we can't afford what we just budgeted, like at that point. So, I mean, by being like, oh, we get a little extra right now, but what happens if we don't next year or the year after? Like, it's good to have that backup, we're not increasing, you know.
When you use that money, when you have these capital improvements, you, I understand you've got a point, but if you don't have,
It's
you
been
don't
going
have.
back taxes all those years ago, we've been able to pay for our sewer plant and wouldn't have to borrow and all that. So
Yeah.
an argument can be made both ways. I mean, nobody's wrong here. What is the balance of the undesignated fund as of currently?
I don't have a precise balance.
Ballpark, yeah.
The ballpark allows you to go on the border of auditing recommendations at 500,000.
You say
If you ballpark, you could use up to $500,000 to reduce taxation.
and still keep us in our proper amount of cash on hand and all that's still there.
You're gonna be in that window. You're gonna be on the lower end of the window. We've always been on the top end of the window.
We've extremely top end of the window of what we have on hand for money.
Well, Lindsay mentions a rainy day fund. I mean, we've got some investments and some savings, but I think we're limited on how much money we can tuck away and be.
This time, how many towns have $2.2 million in stock market? You know what I mean?
I mean, we can't.
That's either smart or just.
Bucks in the bank. I mean, are we allowed to do that, or that's not being fair to our citizens?
I think that money in the bank is planning, what do we have for contract with Waste Management? Is it another 10 years, 15 years?
14 years.
Okay, after that, what's our plan? We don't have one, like,
Next 14 years.
Yeah, we need to be using this money now to offset 16, 18, 22, 25 years from now when we're not getting that money because we can't do our budget right now without them. So what that's gone, what then? Do we look like Madison when the mill closes down, everyone's skyrocket? People are gonna be super upset when you go from, you know, a 1 or 2% increase to jacking it way up. You know, it's like, what's easier to swallow? $5 this year or 550 in 14 years when you can't afford it? It just, I get it, like, you know, oh, there's extra money, we should give it back, but in the same sense, like, the cost of running this town isn't gonna go away and it's not gonna go down. But the revenue sources that we have to keep funding that will go away, and that is a very tangible timeline that we have to count on. And if we're not planning for that now, we're making really dumb choices in this minute for a small amount of money. That's just,
Well,
Where I'm at.
we're really only supposed to have so much money on hand. You know what I mean? We were borderline with how much money we had prior to investing. And then you could say that money invested still really counts as money on hand. So it's tough, right? I mean, you can't just stockpile $32 million and keep it here. I mean, that's not what a town does. You know what I mean? You can't just take all that money from the dump and keep it. It either is spent or goes back to the taxpayers in some fashion.
well, I think we should be looking at ways to spend it to bring in more tax revenue.
No, I don't think it's a law. It's just what they look at. I mean, I don't know the formula that I was given once, right?
What we look, it's 5 months of operating expenses, not considering revenues, which is what to keep on hand. So typically we're in the ballpark of, you know, $1 to $2 million. It's pretty fair, because you have to pay this. And we don't typically, we'll take it up a parking account, amount of county tax, but that doesn't, you know, that doesn't do it, but it should.
When that ballpark number, was that made up like?
That's auditing standards, so that's, we don't have this year's surplus amount. We don't have it, the auditors haven't been, we've sent pre-work out and that's the extent of it. We're working off last year, how much did we draw out? We drew out $300,000 to offset taxes last year. You have to assume it replenished. But working off the same ballpark number last year, it probably didn't fully replenish, but we were still at the high end of what's in undesignated. That means something that's not designated for specific fund.
I mean, I see what Lindsay said. I moved to Norridgewock. Cause I lived in Shelby. Like when we talk about taxes, with my parents and I'm like, I live in Norridgewock. You know, so I can get what you're saying, but I also get what you're, I mean, there's that fine line. I mean. Fire trucks aren't costing 300, they're costing 500. I mean, you could chew up $1 million really easily.
Yeah, we lost our fire truck in 4 months of being in the stock market.
Yeah, right. But I just, it wasn't that bad.
No, not quite a fire truck.
I just would rather see that,
No.
that surplus being allocated towards, you know, aggressive. Like business development for the town, so that we have other revenue sources for generating taxes other than what we're counting on those host fees. I would rather see that those funds be moved to creating more economic sustainability for the town than saving a few bucks on taxes each year. You know, if we invest that so that we bring in more businesses, more jobs, more taxpayer base, you know, that I think is a much better use of those funds than, you know, never raising taxes in Norridgewock.
So we have a TIF account that's got a few $100,000 in it, and if you can come up with a program to incentivize businesses that could be administered equitably. Bring it on, let's sit down and talk about it, because that TIF account just keeps building, and the only real mechanism to get money out of that is through the facade improvement program.
Yeah,
You know,
And that's what business
taxes
attracts.
makes us marketing. That's why you want to move here. It's because we got low taxes and you know we're not gonna go up. So, no, it is tough. I certainly don't disagree with you. That's tough. That is tough.
But when you say something like $10, right? Realistically, what is $10? If you raise everybody's taxes $10, how much is that? Is it a?
Was about what, there's 3,000 residents. I mean, that's right.
We've got probably 2,500 tax accounts, right?
Okay, so.
So I don't disagree. I like the
The
way.
difference is that you have taxpayers that don't pay anything, sorry, real quick, and then you have taxpayers that pay $350,000. Singular taxpayer,
And if you have one property, 10 properties.
and that all goes like this. And then you have, solar is gonna be on the books this year for $8 or $10 million. It's gonna be half of that's gonna come back, that's $30,000, that's gonna depreciate, that's gonna go off the cliff. Right, it's gonna be 30,000 this year, 15,000 next. So this was the discussion the budget committee had, not to go on, but it was this, and it was reflected in Article 27, is to covering up tax increases with revenues that are gonna be long-term revenues. And that's why the budget committee split on the use of surplus.
so the budget committee definitely wasn't unanimous,
They were on increasing roads and increasing the use of post fees,
but not on,
but not on the use of surplus. The use of surplus, the two members of the budget committee. If it had been earlier in the night, probably could have swayed some, and it was about. There's got to be consequence to spending, and you can't just artificially cover up taxes.
that's,
That's what they're kind of getting at, but that was the discussion that they had, was we're artificially keeping taxes low.
mhm.
And my thing right out of the gate was, you're using your local dollars to cover up the increases of school and the county. We're doing pretty good of taking our local revenues to take care of ourselves locally. And there's no consequence, people don't go to the school because. They don't see it in their tax bill, you see it here, and people would be horrified to see the bills.
Yeah.
That's like more of a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your pleasure? I mean, typically, we do take the recommendation of the board underneath us, not on all things, but on.
Are you serious right now?
Most of the time, we do take the recommendation of the board underneath us.
You don't live on White Hills, so you don't care.
Jim also pointed out here that you've got a mix up on 26, your inverted amounts.
The last three numbers.
Mine, this is, no, it's not, yeah,
Dyslexic moment.
yeah.
I do it all the time.
So what is the pleasure? I guess we can start with, I mean, 26, how do you guys?
The motion would be a motion to increase the warrant article to 2318392. And vote it up or down. Increasing the warrant to allow the budget committee's recommendation. It's an affirmative motion. Move it, second.
Does it have any inclination on how, and that's using the host keys?
So what's the budget committee's recommendation, 930, 392 or 930?
390, but it was just $100,000 more than yours.
Okay.
So we can. Warrant it with a higher amount and leave our amount and then open up the discussion, right?
How much are we over budget this year versus last year?
So it's tough. Last year we had a $2.2 million budget. We spent 1.7 million of it. This year we passed a $2.7 million budget. So you could say it's a $1 million increase
So
or.
the budget committee's now taking us up to like a 3 million, so the budget committee's taking us to like a 3 million with their new stuff almost. Couple hundred grand more, like it
I
plus.
don't think so, because I had revenues to offset. I can't.
Yeah, the total expense is 2.8, yours is 2.7.
Well, they're just taking it from the surplus.
But once you, that's the expense line. But when you look at what they punched in for revenues, they're only $1,000 revenue.
At the end, because that's just a big numbers game.
They're putting the 100 into roads and then backing it out of those communities.
Right.
And what you won't see on here is their use of surplus taxes.
So if this goes through at the 960, that's an annual until it gets voted again there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're committing to this in like perpetuity by. I feel like,
Well, right, so I mean, just right. I mean, well, the first one on 26, I mean, that's allowing that higher number to be on the board. I mean, we're not changing it, we're just allowing it to present as the higher number and still open a discussion and it could still pass at the lower amount. We're just allowing it to be on the, right, because you can't increase the amount, whatever, you can always go down. But what you warrant can never go up.
Mhm.
So if we warrant at ours, they can't be increased. So if we warrant it at theirs, there's a discussion and it can go up or down. And I think that's the job of the public. You show up and cast your vote, or right, the people that are informed do it for you.
Can I ask a question? Not to cause more trouble, but more conversation among you folks. If you're talking about cash in the bank and returning it to the voters, is the pleasure of the board then to increase your recommended amount by the 100,000? As opposed to using it as a tool to offset roads, which are opposed to funding additional roads. Do you, as a board, want to increase 100,000? The budget committee is recommending. Budget committee says you can afford to take it out of host fees. Or do you just want to warrant it to lower? You're going completely against what Lindsay said. But
Right, personally, I'd like to see it warranted at the budget committee's amount, because I'm not gonna squash a discussion, you know what I mean? Then the budget committee, it's their job to look at their budget, they feel it should be higher, then you open up a discussion, the voters can decide whether they want to go with us.
Right.
Or the budget committee, not that we're opposing, departments. And the 400,000, I'm more than comfortable with that, I mean, I don't want to see departments increase, you're absolutely right, that you can only offset something for so long. But I'm comfortable with what the budget committee has here, and what they've come for, because they're the budget committee, I'm not. You
you
don't
think
want
that
me running
they're
your
far more
finances
qualified to do the budget than we are?
Than me, I can't speak for you guys, but I don't do my finances, and certainly don't like these things.
I mean, I appreciate what all that committee brings, but you've got to remember that we're seeing the ins and outs of everything that's happening here and knowing where the money goes. Twice every single month, they see a budget one time, and so they can give their best, view on that. So I don't think that we can just blindly take, oh, well, they said so. They must be the experts. It's not like it's a panel of, financial analysts and accountants. So we need to trust our own gut and the decisions that we made and not only just be swayed by what a board did. I feel like we made a decision for a reason and we should stick by that stuff. And if another committee comes up and says, let's do more money, like, we don't have to. We certainly don't.
In the end, the town votes.
That's right.
Yeah.
The people at the town meeting are going to ask us why we recommended
Mhm.
100,000 less.
Yeah.
We gotta have a good answer. So we need a motion to make the amount in the warrant $2,318,318,392. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I've made it.
Motion and a second discussion.
Now, when they vote, can they vote how they want to allocate money? Or
No,
pay for it? They can't, but I mean, it's.
yeah, you can't change
I get
it.
it.
It'll just be a matter of they'll vote this or that, this amount or that amount.
The whole revenue budget is the same, with the exception of that $100,000 that they're recommending be drawn from host fees to offset.
I just back to the $10 more a year, I just put the McDonald's in number 3, is what it.
Well, the drink at my feet is $10.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's my thing is I don't mind. Paying me personally. A little bit more money and like I said, my parents live in Scotty and so I chuckle when they talk about town taxes, you know, so.
And even if we go up a tiny marginal amount, which we should be increasing gradually, it's gonna leave us so we don't hit that cliff when we lose the money. But like, it's not enough to be like, oh my gosh, these people now can't eat for this month because it went up so high. It's not a jacket, but eventually, if we don't start looking at having a sustainable like taxation to run the town without host fees, we're gonna be super screwed in a couple decades. Like, and we have to be thinking that out, regardless of what money's there right now. It's not always gonna be coming in, and we have to prepare people for that onslaught of costs to cover everything eventually.
Yes.
And it'll still be cheaper than stuff, even if we go up.
We would be. Anything else on discussion on that?
The motion on the table strictly raises the warrant, does not change the recommendation.
Right. Okay, so all those in favor? Yeah.
Is that painful?
Okay, right on. And then, right, 27, right, are we gonna, because we were at what, 300 on that?
That's what it was last year.
Right.
You did not discuss it this year.
We did.
Yeah, there were 2 people on the budget committee that wanted it to stay at 300,000. They didn't want it to go higher. There was some that wanted it to go to 525 or 550. They were brought back to the 400. And so the 2 dissenting votes on the 400,000, 300,000.
Which is what we had recommended.
You do not make a recommendation on this,
So do you want a motion on that?
please.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend 400,000, an amount not to exceed 400,000 from the undesignated fund balance to reduce property taxes.
Second.
And the motion is second, any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Yes, sir. A little bit bold, we voted lower and then still get the 400 and the whole budget would actually go down.
You would reduce taxes drastically by accepting the revenues that was presented. Yeah.
34 and 5, are those your?
34.5, yes, the state treasurer's office has not set the minimum tax rate. In customary, there's no objection to customary to set the tax rate at what they allow to the max and then back off to 4%. And that's what we pay on prepaid taxes. We never pay, we don't accept that form of prepaid taxes. The one thing that I've got for you is a backup to Article 28, which wasn't highlighted, that was added today. And that is the article to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to negotiate and execute one or more agreements for the purchase of a new fire truck for the town on such terms and conditions to be determined by the select board. With the attached fiscal note that the fire truck would be appropriated this year, next year, and then deliver it 2025.
Yeah, that's great.
Did you read the whole article or
I
did you attach a money thing to that? A dollar figure?
No, and this was, I had to have this drafted by the law office because we didn't, it's not an appropriation article, it
Agreed.
gives them.
That's why I was hoping that it did not include a money.
No, it doesn't.
Because all it does is confuse people for what.
It sets up the timeline for acquiring
The
it.
timeline thing and the expense would come from current and future capital reserve accounts. So,
And yes, the appropriation, the initial appropriation from the town's fire equipment reserve account.
And there's already enough in that account to cover the chassis and stuff, if that chassis.
yeah, and we gotta build tomorrow for a
Right,
chassis.
okay, yep.
We
That
got
was really, I think,
305, 205,000, you told me, you did, I think. You told
And I know it's
Can I see the language?
202, 102, and then there'd be 302 at the end of the year.
Yeah, 202, plus 100 potentially.
The one thing we do need to keep in mind, it's not really important today, but there's $50,000 in that reserve account that came from the estate of Alexander. So that's not intended to buy fire trucks, that's intended for a project.
I think that's perfect.
Put it to a fire truck?
Yeah, I think it would.
I think the language.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think so. Anyway, so that just, we need to keep that in mind as we're planning this money.
Okay.
Does the select board recommend approval of the warrant, and we need a motion to warrant and recommend the article,
So,
28.
20 days.
and that we warrant and accept Article 28.
Second, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody.
Everything else is pretty well status quo, disposal of property. The tip is Article 42. And then there is everything carried forward, it's Article 43. So what I'll do is, did anybody have anything else that they think needs to be added into this?
We think we'd have got a raise, but we didn't our goal.
And then the.
Well, taxes don't go up, how are they gonna pay us?
We voted at the previous meeting for your recommendations in your department budgets, and things were unanimous. Is anybody dissenting from any of those votes at present time?
I can't believe the budget committee didn't increase it. That's what I'm shocked. by.
We're set up.
Oh, I'm just being facetious.
All right, so that kind of takes care of that, but there's one more item.
I'll, can I come back to the fire truck thing for a minute?
Fire away.
You were just commenting, very good. You were just commenting about budget committee recommending some increases. One of the things, and I was glad to not see dollar figures. Because we were talking about preliminary prices that we've received from vendors or whatever. And one of the things that we miss, and one of the things I'm interested in is what would the cost of a four-wheel drive truck be?
Go right. Yeah.
I think we've seen lots of weather events lately, even one this week, Richard even elaborated on it, the town group perspective. But the more ice storms, the more sleet storms, the more things that we've seen, you know, should we be considering a four-wheel drive truck because, you know, we have to go to every call, right? If your house is burning, it doesn't matter what it does, you know. And we've always really wanted one, we've never really been able to get over it in terms of the budget, the cost of the increase, right? So we've always want the standard. And the budget committee encouraged us, you should take a look at that, maybe it's considering you keep the trucks 30 years. So another comment that didn't come through in their official recommendations, but their comment was you should be taking a look at that because you are buying a 30-year truck. Yeah, we are looking at it. I don't know if we'll end up suggesting it or not. You know, we'll determine that on a later date, but it was yet another comment from the budget committee about it. They also had one about, you know, electric fire trucks, which are a thing now. Yeah, that's, you know, not for us, the technology and the price point isn't there, but next time we buy one, so they have to do it.
We have a little choice next time.
You might not have a choice.
Yeah.
They are a thing. Yeah, I get it.
If you're in an ice storm, we're not gonna have power to charge them up, then we're really screwed.
That would be true.
That'll be my emergency stuff should not.
Put your house up because the truck's driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be good.
Like, some good old diesel's probably where I wanna be.
Okay.
We have had discussion with fire officers in the past about the need to offer M-First in main public employees retirement system. At the very least to them. There's no paperwork, in fact. In essence, what it boils down to for us, cost is 4% contribution. Additional to what we're already contributing to their retirement. Where if they're matching, it's 6%, we're already paying 6%. We would stop doing that and we would pay just shy of 10% of their salary in order to enroll them. Todd has talked about it on a number of occasions about how it's going to be an essential tool to recruiting and retaining. I think we've seen that already. And it's my hope that this board would understand that, not that puts some strict timeline for adopting it, but there is a warrant article process that has to go to town meeting that authorizes you to proceed with offering it. Given that we're in the middle of an active CDA, I think that that's just kind of not on the table, but I think that we can address your emergency workers, your firefighters. I think need to have that as an option that we can consider as a tool for the next 12 months. And then also the employees that are not governed under a union contract, not covered under a union contract. So I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of offering that. And it's a lengthy paragraph warrant article to adopt that, but I think it's something that needs serious consideration.
Well, you're right. I mean, you can't argue with it. I mean, it's a great deal. You're 20 and down. It's 25 and done is what that works out. Yeah. And it is. That's what Scouting does. I mean, that's right.
Every town offers it, right? If we're gonna be in the firefighter business,
Which we're in that life. I mean, yeah,
This is
there's no-
only for the full-time.
That's for full-time.
What was this
firefighters
non-union
and-
stuff though, that like,
Anybody that's not covered under a contract needs to be looked at.
every other town.
We are the only town
Could be.
really that has-
Every town,
that doesn't do that,
I'm shocked that we don't.
It's not union.
because that's covered under a different contract. They have the 657 deferred compensation, so it's the end of the year.
I'm shocked that we fill the seats we fill without having it, because every other town. It's main public employees retirement system. That's what you are.
I mean,
It's a public, main.
we could definitely get by without it. I mean, you see how quick we fill the spot over the fire department. I mean, there's no lapse. But we're growing and we're gonna grow again, right? It's gonna go from 2 to 4 and.
Jesus, I hope not.
It's just a matter of time.
It isn't going up anymore.
It's just a matter of time.
Every other town is growing.
It's gonna be there forever. So I mean, definitely see the value in enacting this one. We're sorting it out so that it can be enacted, and not really have a big budget impact.
So if you don't do it, if you don't look at something like this, what we're gonna become is the training ground.
B team.
And somebody's gonna come in here, we're gonna train them for a year, then they're gonna go somewhere else. Happens at every police department across the state. People would offer you another $4 or $5 an hour or $2 an hour and a better contract, gone. So. We can either train people over and over and over and over and over, be a revolving door, or we can offer them an incentive to stay if we want to keep.
Great is.
And the other compliment to that is that you do, I think wages, the increase in wages theoretically will slow. And what we're seeing increase once this is on the table for perspective.
Then what would be like the minimum that they would, I guess you'd have to draft something up, like set it, so they don't.
Is a investment process.
Yeah.
Exactly, they gotta work here 5 years before they even get it, right?
Vested in 5 or.
Yep. I think it
But
needs to
they're
be a
still
substantial
contributing.
time investment for them,
Right.
since it's a substantial financial investment for us. Like, they have to be investing their time in order for us to invest our money.
There is an employee component that is more than what they're already contributing.
You're right.
It's a lot more than something.
It forces them to contribute to their retirement. I mean.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest, even if they're not looking up to. So that's.
Right.
So I mean, what's this one doing? Right, and all we're really doing right now is saying that we're interested, and if we want to.
My request would be a motion to warrant an article that authorizes the town the ability to enroll non-union eligible employees and that person.
And then that still lets us to sort out all the details in the.
There's a lot of details, honestly.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I'm more than comfortable with that.
All right, it's so moved.
So
You're welcome, Matt.
currently, how many positions? Two, three,
Town manager.
This would be everybody that isn't union, so.
Right.
Everybody that works in this building.
No,
No,
I thought we were talking emergency workers.
well, there's three.
Right.
Yeah.
Those three.
Yeah, and I would. So we have somebody that's in, you know. A numbers office that's not gonna be here forever. Why not queue that up while we're here? And do that, other than that, we're gonna be back here again in who knows how many years.
I'm just, the difficulty is if you've worked for some place for 15 years or 20 years, it's almost impossible to make up those contributions and benefit from that retirement. It's more appealing, not that it's not appealing, but it's more appealing as a recruiting tool for someone new coming in the door to train them and retain them. Is the benefit that I see in that. If you've already got 20 years and you go to the system, you're not going to be able to make that up and entirely benefit from that.
Correct, and so I think there's gonna be a blend of who's gonna continue on their. Regular deferred,
Yeah.
and that percentage is gonna increase probably to what the towns, you know, in a similar. Structure to what we have, and then there probably would be, you know, how do we buy somebody in this thing for 2 years? To keep them.
And the other thing is with PERS, I mean, people coming, we hire somebody from another agency, they can bring that time with them.
okay, so we transfer, okay, okay.
Well, it depends on the plan, but most I think are transferable right now.
Oh, that's,
Okay, I didn't know that.
Individual, you know.
but if
maybe
that's
not.
transferable, then how's that keeping people thinking to take it somewhere else?
You steal somebody.
Stealing that.
No, so many people money. Like, that's-
One of the biggest benefits that the town of Norridgewock can offer somebody is flexibility.
Yep.
And that's what we do with the fire department, that's what we do the best that we can, is let them know that we're flexible.
We pick the days that we have our emergencies and.
Right, yeah, we know it's.
It's like a bit of times, forgive the days.
So, in a second, okay, yeah, so move to second, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Let's.
Get that included in this board, and we'll review that next meeting before you sleep.
Okay.
So that should put the warrant to rest. The next item I have is.
We have to add, we
Motion to, sorry,
have to add other business.
no, I'm still on number 7.
Oh,
A motion to sign a notice of public hearing on secret ballot referendum questions. Including the opt-in for registered medical marijuana retail stores. The town of Norridgewock moratorium ordinance on medical marijuana registered caregiver retail stores. And the 2023 amendments to the town of Norridgewock site plan review ordinance. Solar regulation.
so moved.
Second, more in a second, any further discussion?
That is further
That all
reading February 1st, 2023 at 6 o'clock.
So, right, yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? There we go.
Then I would also appreciate a motion for a motion to hold a public hearing on a proposed ordinance.
So moved.
That is the town of Norridgewock moratorium ordinance on medical marijuana registered caregiver retail stores.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Second one.
Please. So those are very similar, but we actually have to have a hearing on the ordinance from the content perspective, and then the one that we did in the group of 3 will actually be the hearing portion of town meeting. When we held here, discuss.
Other business?
If I could get a motion to add discussion action on donations.
So moved.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Is everybody?
And a motion to accept a donation of $100 from Joseph and Lynn Quarry to support community with access.
So moved.
And a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is everybody?
That's really.
We had a resignation, I'll practice this real quick. We had a resignation from the planning board. Without posting the vacancy, I have 2 applications for planning board volunteer. You have Jeremy Turner and you have Paul Nichols Jr. board does not wish to add this to the agenda, we can post it, or you can look at these two applications, add it here and appoint.
Did we?
Quick question. Let me formulate my question. So what major business does the planning board have between now and our municipal election? And do they have a quorum if we don't fill that position? Because I'm reluctant to put a volunteer on that board and 30 days later, they're gone. That's my only reluctance.
Good question.
Yep, so if it would be a 4-member board, I think they could achieve quorum most usually. We can't fill this in March. The earliest we could do it because of the nomination window would be June, if you decide to hold a special election.
Because of the terms that these people are, so you get a write-in, I realize they haven't collected signatures, they get a write-in, they win the write-in vote, is this for a particular term?
This is gonna be this might shoot,
So it's a year or two.
so it would be an appointment until the next regularly scheduled town meeting. So we could hold, like we did last June, with the vacant select board seat, we could schedule that in June, or you could appoint now, because of the nomination window.
Yeah.
You'd be appointing for a full year.
That makes it more difficult.
From the planning, but I don't know if you have any questions.
So legally, why too late to get this on the ballot? Or why can't we legally advertise this position in a month?
We can do that. We can post it and see what we get for additional applications. We can go the short nomination window. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that because then I'm gonna end up having to issue a standalone planning board ballot. Because I don't have, my ballots have to be out in less than 2 weeks.
I got you.
Is that like a major issue to do, or is that not a big, yeah, is that? Okay. I know, just writing up another piece of paper.
And then I don't have a response, right? So they're gonna turn in their referendum, they're gonna turn in their candidate, and then I'm gonna have this musical candidate out.
These are actually for 2 different positions, right?
He floats an in blood alternate, he intends to stand for it.
So we. But I'll just wait.
Okay, no other business then. I'm good. I'll post the vacancy on the planning board and see if we can get out of that.
Okay.
That way it goes through the project, and everybody has a chance to apply, and we're not excluding anybody.
So I moved, we're going to executive session.
Do you have anything else for other business?
I don't.
Or anything for other business? I forgot. Yeah,
I move we go into executive session.
motion a second, any further discussion? Being none, and those in favor?
Thank you, Mike.
Real quick, you're shut off the live stream altogether because there is not gonna be any substantive action after executive session aside from the adjournment.
Not that you might look it up.